Hello friends, this is Wendy. I am so excited that you're here with me today. We are going to be using the doggone amazing stamp set and dies from Honeybee Stamps. And I have so much to say about this stamp set. We are going to get into that in a little bit. Let me tell you what we're going to do first. We are going to stamp all of these images on one sheet of cardstock. I've cut a piece of cardstock down to 5.5 by 8.5. And then I'm going to arrange all of my images onto this piece of cardstock. One of the things I want to share with you today is how easy and simple it is to make several cards by just stamping once and coloring once, basically, especially with stamp sets like this. This stamp set, sky's the limit. You could do elaborate scene cards. You can do very simple cards. You can do intermediate, in between. Like I said, sky's the limit. But I'm choosing to do fairly simple cards and making multiples of them. And not all the same. They're going to all be different, but they're all going to kind of have the same, like, feel, I guess is the word. So we're going to stamp out all of the images here using the Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink. And I'm stamping them down, and then I am going to let this dry for just a minute while I prepare my card bases. This is one of the things I love about my Misty. As you can see there, I didn't get perfect images when I stamped the first time, so I'm just going to go in and stamp all of those images again. And now I will have a beautifully stamped sheet of adorable little puppies. I would be remiss if I did not mention that Dawn Woolseigel is the one that illustrated this stamp set and the kitty stamp set. And so she's very, very talented. So she's the one that illustrated this. Here, I'm going to use my old school corner chomper from We Are Memory Keepers. There is one available at the supply list link if you want to go there. I've dug around and found a couple available at different sites. This is an old technique. It's not one that you see done very often anymore, but boy, was it popular a few years back. So I'm corner rounding just two corners of the card bases and of my layer that's going to go on the top. So the layer that I'm using on the top is a craft crumb / sand colored cardstock, and it is fantastic for creating simple cards. So what I really love to do when I want to create a whole bunch of simple cards and I want my coloring to really shine is I'll use a white card base with a layer of crumb or craft cardstock, this color that you see here. I think this is Desert Storm cardstock is what it's called. Or does it Desert Storm? I'm not sure. Desert something. Anyway, it'll be linked on the supply list, hopefully. Then we're going to go in and we're going to color all of our images. Now, I am not going to color all of these on screen with you because there's no point. A lot of the coloring is very redundant. I'm using R59, R29, R35, and R32 to color the red wagon. I cannot see a wagon any other color besides red. I grew up with a radio flyer wagon. My daughter got a radio flyer wagon for her very first Christmas. She was like 4 months old, and there were many memories, many childhood memories built and loved in a radio flyer wagon. There's just something about our little red wagon that makes my heart really happy, and I do think it's because it brings you back to those childhood memories. So that's where I'm going to get into talking a little bit about this stamp set as I color, and then we're going to create these really simple cards, and we'll go back and forth between story time and the card. If you're not interested in story time, there is a video, exact same video over on Honeybee Stamps YouTube channel, and it does not have me talking about anything except the card. So if you're interested in all of the details of just the card, you can go over there. But here on my channel, we like to have story time, so that's what we're going to do. So let's talk about the little red wagon. So when I was little, my grandma and grandpa both, they had a piece of property. I've talked about this before, in Northern California, and it's where I grew up. It's where I called home. And my mother was there. I had an absent dad, but my mom, often we lived with my grandparents. And so we would, when we were really little, I can remember getting into this little red wagon, and my grandma would put a blanket in the bottom of it and pull us around in the little red wagon, my grandma or my grandpa. Us kids, there was 5 of us total that grew up together. It was my sister and I and my 3 cousins. And I have more cousins than that came along later in life, but those were the main 5 that were young all at the same time. And God bless my grandparents. They had to keep us all summer, all 5 of us. I don't know how they did it. I've shared this before. I feel like maybe they were kind of robbed of their golden years because of that. But I also have some of the fondest memories of my childhood because of growing up that way. It was interesting, back in that time, we're talking about the 80s and 90s, early 90s, mid 80s to I would say mid 90s. My grandparents spent raising an entire second generation. They had already raised their 4 daughters, and my youngest aunt still didn't have children until much later because she was so much younger. She was kind of the surprise baby that my grandma had when my grandma was a little bit older. So she was actually 17 years younger, or is 17 years younger than my oldest aunt. So there's my oldest aunt, then my mom, then the third aunt, or the third daughter, I should say, my second aunt, and then my last aunt, and these are all on my mom's side, my mom's sisters. So my aunt, the youngest aunt, I'm trying not to use their names. The youngest aunt is actually 10 years younger than the third aunt. So she was almost like an only child, if that makes sense. So she didn't bring grandkids into my grandparents' life until much later. So all of that was to say that there was this whole group of us that were kind of clustered together, grandkids. There were 5 of us total. And we spent our summers playing out on this 40-acre property in the country with chickens and dogs and cats, and we had a pond that we would fish in using bamboo fishing poles, and we would use the little red wagon for hauling things and playing Little House on the Prairie, and we played Pocahontas, and we played, all these pretend farmhouse dress up type things. There was all girls and 1 boy. And so all of us girls, did all the play, pretend play. And that is how I grew up. I didn't grow up, with a cell phone or any of that. That didn't come along until I was I'm what they call like an elder millennial. So that stuff didn't come along until I was in my late teens. And so I grew up without technology, and we still had to play. So here's 2 of the finished cards, and then we're going to make a third one here using this freebie from Honeybee. And I just did this because I just wanted to show you that Honeybee Stamps gives freebies, and I don't know if this one is still available at the time of you seeing this video. However, when you spend $100, you get a little freebie. In this case, there was a pack of puppy and kitty pattern paper that was absolutely to die for, adorable. And look that's a finished card. I think that's so cute. So then I'm going to go ahead and make my last card here as we finish up story time. This is kind of going along that exact same theme that we've already done, and this turns out really cute as well. So yeah, I basically grew up just in this awesome bubble of happiness with my grandparents, and I look back on that time. The little red wagon thing made me think so much of them, and as I colored these images, it just kind of took me back to having I had this little dog named Betty Boop, and I would dress it up in clothes, and I would put it in the wagon and pull it around. I mean, that stupid red wagon, I'm telling y'all, that thing got pulled around and used for, I want to say, over a decade. I mean, it was a rust bucket by the time it had seen its day. And we have a red wagon, and it's the one we got my daughter when she was little. And I was just set on that she had to have a little red wagon for her first Christmas. Because, you know, babies, what are they going to do anyway? But I would get her all dressed up in her little outfits and put blankets and pillows all around. And I would pull her in the little red wagon when she was little. And so, I don't know, a little red wagon just steals my heart. And my grandma and grandpa used to have this saying. They would say, "You're cuter than a speckled pup under a red wagon." And so I thought that was really sweet for this stamp set also. That's what I thought of when I saw this. And I was actually wishing they had a little pup that would fit under the red wagon that I could color to like fit under there laying down. But there wasn't one, so that's okay. But yeah, that was a saying that I heard my whole life growing up. You're cuter than a speckled pup under a red wagon. And yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Just a little bit of nostalgia today, thinking back and looking back on some of the things. You know, one of the things I love about stamps is that they do kind of sometimes bring us back in memories to things that we remember and love from when we were young. And so that's what this stamp set did for me. And anytime there's a stamp set that does that for me, it just feels a little extra special. And so I wanted to share that with you. Again, if you didn't enjoy story time, you can always go watch the honeybee video that gives you more detail about what we've done here to make these cards. Also, there are links below the video. If you're interested in purchasing any of these products, you can go to the link below the video and look at that. When we add those shadows underneath the wagon and the pup, look how much it's amazing to me how it anchors the image and really makes it just feel more like a scene. And we kept this really simple. Yes, I could have done a sky and grass and a ground and the whole thing, but I chose to keep it incredibly simple for the sake of this video because I wanted it to be simple. So here's the 4 cards we made, and it didn't take me very long. It took me about an hour to make all of these. And then of course I shortened the video down for you so that you didn't have to watch as long. So I hope you have an amazing day. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Don't forget to check out the supply list if you want to purchase any of these products that you saw here today. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks for hanging out with me, friend. Bye-bye.